welcome to this year's first ever Blended Capacity Europe, taking place online and live in London. Thank you for joining us. It's great to be able to connect with you all, wherever you are in the world. I would like to thank all of this year's sponsors for their support of Capacity Europe 2021. Please feel free to drop by to their stands throughout the course of this year's event and say hello to the teams. You can also download the Swap Card app to connect with everyone attending this year's Capacity Europe. Thank you for joining this year's following special feature, introducing the Digital Transformation Show, our new virtual chat show on all things digital transformation within telecoms and the wider ICT infrastructure market. We have a few guests on today's show, so let me welcome the guest presenter of the show, Tim Passingham. Tim, digital transformation has seemed to be the embodiment in the way of thinking amongst telcos during the course of the pandemic. Would you tend to agree with that sentiment?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a little bit like the cartoon that many people have seen. What's driven your digital transformation strategy in the last year? Is it the CEO, the CIO, or COVID-19? And, I think many people would agree it's COVID-19 that's driven a huge amount of change and the digitalization of many organizations and telcos. Okay. David, thank you for that. Right, welcome to this afternoon, and a very warm welcome to our other panellists who will introduce one by one as we go. Alper, Dewan and Miu, who I'll let them introduce themselves in a few minutes. But as we've just mentioned, digital transformation has driven an enormous change in the last 12 months. So my panellists who are very kindly joining this afternoon are going to talk to us a little bit more about that, and particularly share some examples that they've seen over the last 12 months, which I think will be really interesting to us. So let me go to our very first guest, Alper Burak from Odine Solutions in Turkey. Alper, thanks so much for joining us. Do you want to introduce yourself first of all? Tell us a little bit about the fantastic work that you and the Odine team have been doing during COVID and over the last 12 months.
Sure, Tim. This is Alper Tunga Burak, CEO of Odine Solutions. We are a systems integrator focusing on Tier 1 telecom core and edge network function virtualization and legacy infrastructure transformation with a deep expertise of production deployments of private and hybrid telco clouds. We also own and manage a private cloud infrastructure running our own OSS/BSS product called Orion, enabling wholesale voice business management applications as platform as a service or software as a service offerings for CSPs, wholesale voice and data aggregators, and MNOs in 36 countries through regional POPs located in the USA and UK. We build, manage, and operate virtualized networks in multi-vendor environments for telcos running on different transmission layers in fixed and mobile network environments. We have a unique value proposition, I would say, as a systems integrator, showing telcos, mainly tier 1s, that digital transformation is possible with almost zero hassle. We start from the edge networks, which is mainly the wholesale voice network that has become obsolete with an average age of 15 years, I would say. And we convert that legacy monoblock network into a software and telco cloud-based infrastructure, drastically reducing their CapEx and OpEx while enabling new and essential features to manage their business. And after transforming the edge network, which is the wholesale voice network, and building confidence that they can transform in reality, we propose to transform their core networks as well. And that's where the real show begins, when they start enjoying the real benefits of network function virtualization and software-defined everything. By doing so, when you ask about the last 12 months, especially the COVID situation, we onboarded 4 tier 1 clients in last 6 months with this proposition.
Brilliant, Alper. Thanks ever so much, and thanks again for joining us. So we're going to, in our session now, we're going to talk about softwareization, and you've been at the heart of that. You just mentioned 4 examples. Maybe we can come back to one of those later. But just for everyone's benefit who's listening this afternoon, not everyone will be familiar with the term softwareization. Do you mind just briefly describing that for the audience and just explaining how softwareization is changing the telecoms landscape?
Sure. Softwareization is just what its name suggests, indeed. It's replacing some specific types of networking gear like routers, switches, firewalls, and load balancers, deep packet inspection, hardware, session border controllers, and other network-specific devices with generic hardware like servers, standard servers, and now mainly virtual servers. So It's less specific hardware, more generic server hardware, and mostly software, everything else. Instead of buying individual pizza boxes for every single network component, it's buying just one standard server for any type of network component, running as a piece of software on the same type of hardware. One main camp of softwareization is software-defined networking, usually named as SDN. And this is the basic idea of separating the control, data, and management planes of current networks and implementing them in software. So with such an arrangement, network administrators can quickly adjust to changing conditions to optimize their operation. Such changes can be done from a single computer without having to reprogram individual network components. So the goal is agility, where a network engineer can run a big network with commodity hardware and multi-vendor software. The other main area of softwareization is network function virtualization. While virtual PCs and servers are already used, the goal of NFV, network function virtualization, is to replace all or most of the voice or data network gear with virtual commodity hardware and software pieces running on top. The goals are cost reduction, which is drastic, I would say, up to 50-60% that I have seen so far from our field practices. Speed of change, speed of service rollout, it's again drastic, and of course convenience for everyone, from the end user to the core network HR that you have.
Brilliant, thank you. That was a perfect description. Thanks, Alper. And as telcos start to softwareize, as it were, how are they positioning themselves for this change? You know, particularly in the light of the enterprises and the enterprise customers that they're looking to serve?
Let's talk about what the service providers must have done before being able to truly position themselves and collaborate with their customers. They must have already gone through or in an advanced stage of their own digital transformation journey. More specifically, in terms of their infrastructure transformation, they must be at a stage where almost everything is running on a virtualized and programmable infrastructure, which leverages technologies such as NFV, SDN, AI, machine learning, and automation. Only once that is in place and they have the agility and flexibility it brings around rapidly prototyping and launching new services and the cost savings to be competitive with other service providers, can they truly be in a position to be able to collaborate with and help their customers in their journeys. If we are looking more narrowly at the SDN space, there are already platforms like Epsilon Infini and Megaport that are delivering network as a service using SDN technologies. Service providers can look to replicate some or all of this capability or partner up with these connectivity platform providers and augment it with their own network fabrics. But coming back to the big picture, as you know, service providers must extend their revenue streams beyond just legacy connectivity and must evolve and innovate to deliver services such as public cloud, edge computing, private LTE, 5G, SD-WAN, ST security, software-defined security, and IoT solutions to meet the requirements of enterprises and to compete with the hyperscalers and OTTs. In terms of positioning, carriers must position themselves as enterprise solution providers to their customers and must listen to their requirements instead of trying to push their legacy connectivity services. It's not going to work. Their customers are looking for OpEx-based services that should be highly available, elastic, and secure, and they want to be able to manage their services in near real time so they can do the right sizing on demand. Service providers must take the knowledge they have gained during their own digital transformation, and as a result of their infrastructure transformation I mentioned earlier, they must be in a position to be able to rapidly deploy new services to their customers. Like the service providers themselves, their enterprise customers are also under pressure to rapidly transform and need all the help they can get. And this is a big opportunity for the service providers to step up and deliver so that they are not being pushed to the sidelines as dumb pipe providers, which is the biggest threat that we have been seeing for the last maybe 10, 15 years.
No, I think that's very true. There's some great opportunities that you highlight. There's also some enormous risks, and perhaps we can come back to some of those later. So they've got to get their own house in order and their own digital transformation activity underway. and working really before they can start to softwareize properly for their end customers, who obviously are also going through a similar journey. So give me an example. You mentioned you've transformed four or helped transform four telecommunication providers this past year. Is there a good example you can share with the audience that really highlights some of the points that you just made?
Sure. There are going to be some service provider services that are unique to certain industries for sure. I would say the majority of the services can be beneficial to all of them, from a bank to a manufacturer or a university or a services company. So really all enterprises are benefiting from this shift. As you know, the goal is to let the customer focus on their core business and outsource not just connectivity, but their other needs to the service providers. So this transformation indeed is addressing the other needs that the enterprises mainly are looking for. Some examples of digital platform and services which can be delivered by the service providers using their modernized infrastructure are like call center and unified communications being served from the telco cloud, or an enterprise session border controller from the telco cloud, which has been in the core of our daily communication since the start day of COVID, which was almost like 2 years ago, January, Feb timeline. Collaboration and conferencing solutions, again, from a telco cloud supplied by a service provider. Branch headquarters networking, or MPLS, with software-defined wide area networks. Software-defined security to replace legacy firewalls and VPNs, again, from a telco cloud. So instead of having a box for a firewall, another box for VPN, one extra box for routing and switching. Think about all these functions being served through a centralized software-defined wide area network-based type of solution being served by the service provider through the cloud. This is a major shift for the enterprise and major cost saving for the enterprise. And think of all those people that you have to keep in your IT pool or support pool to manage all those separate boxes. One guy for firewall, one guy for router, one guy for switching. So that's all gone. Hybrid private in-country cloud or colocation. And disaster recovery as a service, again, from a telco cloud. Private LTE, 5G, and IoT, of course. So this provides the enterprise the logical way to replace their legacy infrastructure elements and vendors without the CapEx, and positions them to be able to lower the OpEx, as these are many services which can be administered with smaller headcounts that I just explained through the firewall man or security people example. Ideally, all of this should be delivered from the cloud, but if on-premise equipment is required, it should be a single CP, which can be a single CP with this new technology, utilizing virtualization and software-defined networking instead of a bunch of dedicated appliances as it used to be. And this is, again, a major shift. So what are the benefits? No physical hardware procurement for multiple functions, just maybe one simple base CP to handle all these applications. No RMA delays because you're not having 10 different boxes for 10 different appliances. No truck rolls, zero-touch provisioning, easy to spin up DNFs like Enterprise SPC, Enterprise Session Border Controller function on the same CP, while that CP is being used for SD-WAN or software-defined security, VPN, or intrusion prevention. So there are like dozens examples like this.
No, that's brilliant, Alper. Thank you. Any salesperson listening to this has just had their pitch summarized in 3 minutes, so they need to replay that and learn it off by heart from any telco. So that's really helpful. You touched on some of the opportunities there really articulately. What are some of the risks then? We've only got a couple of minutes left in this session, sadly, and we could talk for hours on this topic. But what are some of the risks as well?
For the service providers, you mean?
Yeah, either actually. Yeah,
okay.
Particularly for the service providers.
Well, there is certain risk for both the enterprise and the service providers not optimally progressing on their digital transformation, where there can be roadblocks on the journey. For example, if there isn't organization-wide buy-in and shift of mindsets and ultimately cultural transformation. And if you look at this just for the infrastructure transformation domain, a big risk we see is that of service providers entrusting the hyperscalers and their public clouds with the keys to their companies. Maybe not right away, but the risk is certainly there. And I'm sure you'll have noticed this trend as well with all the recent XYZ Telecom is partnering with type press releases from the likes of Azure and AWS, where telecoms are either deploying critical infrastructure to a public cloud or letting the hyperscalers into their data centers. Yes, these partnerships may quickly get the service providers moving along their infrastructure transformation, and there are some use cases where it can work, but ultimately, we believe that service providers must deploy their own private telco cloud, one that is built for telco-specific real-time workloads with their more stringent requirements around latency, resiliency, and security. So if you ask me what some of the reasons are that lead us to believe this, I'd say loss of control, lack of hyperscalers in country data centers, current and future regulatory mandates around data privacy, especially in the case of telcos, trading, vendor lock-in for cloud lock-in. Security and availability would be at the top of my list. And from the looks of it, service providers like BT and Orange also have their reasons, which I believe is similar to mine, as they are investing into their own private telco clouds instead of partnering up with hyperscalers.
Interesting. That's really helpful. We're out of time for our session, sadly. As I say, we could talk about this for ages. Please stay with us because we're going to have a panel session. I think we'll pick up some of those risks and opportunities during the panel as well. So thank you for that. That's brilliant. So we're going to move on to our second interview now with Dewan from Verizon. So another area of where digital transformations actually had a big impact during COVID has been around the Internet of Things, particularly Narrowband Iot, NB-IoT, big area of development, lots of really interesting applications. So it's a huge pleasure to have Dewan with us from Verizon to talk about that. Dewan, do you mind introducing yourself? I think everybody knows Verizon, but it'd be handy perhaps to introduce your bit of Verizon and also talk a bit about what Verizon's doing in NB-IoT, if that's okay.
Sure. So my name is Dewan Young. I'm with Verizon, specifically Verizon Partner Solutions. So our main goal is to create strategic alliances and partnerships and joint ventures with other companies that can leverage the various assets within Verizon to grow the top line revenue of both our partners and ourselves, of course. I think it's an exciting time for us. You mentioned Narrowband IoT. The previous discussion really outlined a lot of the things that are going on within Verizon in a lot of areas in SDN, NFV, across the board, but all of this plays into the huge opportunity that we see from an IoT perspective and how we're able to capture that. So our team specifically supports all of our platform and application solutions, which includes IoT, M2M, and Narrowband IoT is a solution where we are providing Narrowband IoT to our partners so that they can really work with enterprises and end users in order to bring that to market.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. And for the audience, a lot of people won't be particularly familiar with Narrowband IoT. Can you just give a short description of what it is, maybe some of the use cases, and then we can go on to sort of how Verizon's executing that?
Sure. Narrowband IoT is a low power wide area network, LPWAN technology. Narrowband IoT supports applications that require data rates below 100 kilobits per second, and it occupies a dedicated frequency of 180 kilohertz. So for the most part, Narrowband IoT focuses on low cost, low battery life, and high connectivity density use cases. In 2019, Verizon announced the availability of our Narrowband IoT network. It covers over 92%, 95% of the U.S. population in our North American network. And Verizon's Narrowband IoT is a lower cost option for enterprises with devices that only require low power and throughput for their IoT solutions. So use cases that we've seen thus far on our Narrowband IoT network and deployed in our network include environmental sensors, alarms, and industrial appliances.
Yeah, so LoRaWAN, some of the other technologies that we'll probably talk about and people will hear about. And then from a Verizon perspective, can you tell us a bit more about what Verizon's doing and also what you're seeing in other telcos, that have also got a wireless play and the capability to deliver, IoT or particularly narrowband IoT services?
So I think the last discussion was interesting. I think it really starts with the end users. So one of the conversations we have with our partners is if you're not looking to disrupt the way that you do business, and, from an end user perspective, from an enterprise perspective, then your users are going to get disrupted. So that's everything from your business processes to your customer experiences. So that's the starting point for most of our consumer discussions and how we enable our partners of what are they doing to enable digital transformation for their partners. So from a Verizon perspective, we see multiple solutions, but the starting point is digital transformation and how we leverage the various assets, the Verizon network, everything that we're doing from 5G, IoT, MEC, across the board, in order to bring that digital transformation to life. So one of the things that is unique about what we've done over the last year is really our partnerships in the MEC space with both AWS and at Microsoft Azure, to bring public and private MEC to the table, along with 5G. So you bring the MEC component, the 5G network, and then at the end, devices. With the proliferation of billions of devices across the network is going to be, an exciting addition that we'll see, take place over the network. So from a Verizon perspective, we're preparing our network, we're preparing our partners, and really enabling our end users and consumers at the end and enterprises at the end, in order to take full advantage of what's happening from a digital transformation perspective.
Okay, that's interesting. So, part of your message is if you're not disrupting, you will be disruptive. And then part of your be disrupted. And then part of your activity is very much preparing the network, making sure the network's, kind of fit for purpose, working with then your partners like the cloud providers to deliver new services. Okay, sounds good. And in the enterprise, what are some of the applications that you're seeing really kind of take off? Because obviously there's loads of stuff discussed in IoT world, from autonomous vehicles, which, feel a bit further off, to the kind of connected home, etc. But what are you really seeing in the marketplace, and what have you seen accelerated during COVID-19 where IoT is really starting to have an impact?
Yeah, I think across the board, the IoT can, play a major role regardless of vertical and segment. So we've seen it everything from the healthcare industry, where there's billions of sensors and devices that are deployed across the healthcare space. So an uptick in telehealth, and those devices that have sensors. We've seen it in the manufacturing space, where, as I mentioned, end-to-end business processes are being disrupted, and you're seeing more and more sensors that are being a part of what businesses bring to bear into their processes and their flows. We're seeing it in the experience space, where there's new experiences that are occurring, whether in stadiums, arenas, and the like.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned telehealth particularly. I mean, obviously healthcare is a massive focus during COVID. It's always been one of the big candidates for narrowband IoT, with lots of hospitals implementing, LoRaWAN and similar. And Verizon's been doing that stateside or internationally, or both?
Stateside, and I think the major piece for us is that there's not a vertical or segment that's not being disrupted or impacted by IoT. So manufacturing, telehealth, smart cities, smart utilities, asset tracking. I think you can go down the line with every vertical and segment where Verizon is looking. So I think it goes back to your previous question of looking at businesses, looking how they can potentially be impacted by digital transformation, and specifically, how can IoT bring to bear the strategies that companies are looking to bring forward in the future?
No, that's helpful. Thank you. And thinking about 5G for a minute, obviously Verizon's got a massive 5G play and is building out an enormous 5G network in the US at the moment. A lot of people get confused between IoT, 5G, will one kill the other, etc. How are they coexisting and complementing each other in Verizon's world?
Yeah, I think the last phrase is 5G is complementary to IoT. They are distinctly different, but the 5G network will provide for more endpoints, to more devices to be on the network. So we're excited about our build out of our 5G network as we continue to proliferate our 5G expansion across the United States. We're looking at more and more markets and making 5G available, but it really plays hand in hand with IoT as customers, as end users go through digital transformation and bring on more and more IoT devices, our 5G network will be here and prepared to support those devices.
Yeah, absolutely. Are there any highlights from you, if you look back over the last 12 months, anything particular that you'd like to share with the audience that where you've seen IoT really have an impact?
Yeah, I think across the board, I think, there's not a vertical or segment. I've mentioned several today. Even in our federal, state, and local government, everything that we support from a devices and transformation perspective. So we're seeing IoT proliferation occur across all of our enterprise segments on the business side. And I think that's what's been most exciting. I think the other piece was that the pandemic accelerated digital transformation as more and more people work from home. The way businesses did business changed via the pandemic. So we saw an acceleration in digital transformation across businesses. And I think the most exciting thing for us from a Verizon perspective is that we were there to help and support our business customers bring forward that transformation in an accelerated realm as it related to responding to the pandemic in the different ways that businesses were forced to do business.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think many places have seen something similar. Have you seen the shift in the US, that we've seen here I'm based in the UK and doing this from London right now, but we've obviously seen a lot of people leaving cities, working from home, and particularly the wireless operators having to switch a lot of focus from city centre networks, dense networks, to more of the rural networks. Has that affected the IoT deployment as well, or not so much?
I don't think it's affected the IoT deployments. I think it's been in something that's actually impacted that we've seen, expansion of where people are working from. Where we see that most is in the security realm of, the hub and spoke model from a security perspective changed during the pandemic, where more people are dispersed to any areas, whether that, large metropolitan areas as well as rural areas, and having people that are densely deployed. But I think where we saw that, and not from an IoT perspective, but more on the cybersecurity side. Yeah.
No, I think that's a good shout. Again, we're out of time. We could spend an hour just on IoT itself, as you know. But Dewan, thanks ever so much. Do stay with us, and we'll explore this a bit more in the panel session at the end. But again, thanks for the insight. That's brilliant. So next, we're going to introduce Mio. So Mio joins us from Infobip. Mio, can I let you introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Hi, Tim. Thanks for having me here. So yes, my name is Mio Soldin. I'm in Infobip last 2.5 years, and in telco space more than 22 years. In Infobip, I'm responsible for the telco leg of our business, which means everything that Infobip is doing for and together with our telecom partners. Infobip is a global cloud communication platform provider that enables businesses to build a connected experience across all stages of their customer journey. Access to a single platform, Infobip's omni-channel engagement, identity, authentication, contact center solutions help businesses to overcome the complexity of consumer communication and improve the user experience, increase loyalty, and eventually grow their business. In short, team, we hide the complexity of today's omni-channel communication and enable brands to focus on what they do the best, their core business. We have a decade of industry experience, and we are truly global with more than 70 offices on 6 continents. So we really live this thing global like local stuff. All our technology is native in-house built. And our platform has a capacity that we are currently touching around 2/3 of all mobile devices globally. We have a coverage of more than 200 countries, and by far we are, the leader in this global telco connectivity space. And I'm happy to say we have direct connection with more than 700 telecom networks globally. Why is this important for us is because only with this direct connectivity and working with our telco partners, we can secure the premium quality and security for our clients, brands, and businesses.
Brilliant, Mio. Thank you, and thank you again for joining us. So we've talked about softwareization so far. We've talked about the impact of IoT and some great examples there. And now we're looking, quite broadly at digital transformation and what you've seen. What have you and the Infobip team seen in terms of the trends and some of the effects of digital transformation in the last year?
Sure. Well, already Devane touched it a little bit. So definitely, this unfortunate situation and it accelerated the digital transformation. So books have been, and stories told about it. So nothing new. What for me is interesting is to see now, after a year and a half, almost 2 years, what is the status now? Are some assumptions that we've been, sharing together become true, or what are the trends? So we at Infobip have a unique position, being placed between the businesses and their consumers. So we kind of have an idea how communication looks like, and how the traffic is looking now after a year and a half of beginning of these things. So we see traffic peak at the beginning, which was natural, and then kind of stabilize a bit. And then what was happening is how each of the verticals were going through the digital transformation. And for some, it takes a bit less. For some, it takes a bit more. We see an increase in traffic, and which for us means, digitalization is definitely bringing more communication, and it's happening in all verticals. So definitely, I would say this snowball, we cannot stop anymore. So it's here to stay.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's good. I think that's very true. I like the way you phrase that. So the volume in traffic, obviously, a lot's driven, by video traffic, driven by what we're doing now. Is a great indicator of just how the world has increased and accelerated in terms of its digitalization. And how have you found the digital transformation of businesses, impacting people's daily lives? I think there's plenty of examples of these, but also from a business perspective, what have you seen in the enterprise space in terms of the major changes?
Well, definitely, what we see is that the users are faster than enterprise. Maybe we've been expecting not so fast acceptance of all this new digital stuff that is throwing on us from all different sides, but actually users are accepting it with tremendous speed, and the users become more pickier. They have a variety of choice, and now they're pushing back these enterprises, to become even faster, even more sensitive for this user experience and stuff. So definitely, this change also reflected businesses first as necessity. Like at one point you lose a channel through which you've been talking to your customers, so you had to open another ones. But now it's kind of coming back from the user perspective, and I think we kind of see that I'm positive in these things, that we are resilient and we are flexible, and whatever happens, this kind of gives us a credit that we'll be ready in future whatever happens.
Yeah, definitely. No, I think you're right. So with the trend for digitalization, even pre-COVID, there was a huge move towards consumerization, and many businesses being consumer-led. Over the past few years, what do you think the telcos can learn from consumers, and how have they changed as a result?
Sure. Yeah. Look. First of all, we are very easy and fast on being critical to telcos. I don't think we talk about a lot, give them credits, and the one has said nicely what Verizon is doing, and I think Verizon is a really great example. And actually all this burden of this shifting everything to a digital, to cloud, to mobility was on their shoulders. So I think in general they did good. Some were, faster, better. Some were not. But all this connectivity really happened. It's not easy. I mean, we all start working remotely, as you say. Like there's tremendous traffic, audio, video, everything, all our work applications, just start, sending all this traffic. Then all the education, all the businesses from, food delivery, banking, finance. So everything just put pressure on this one. So obviously, from my point of view, telcos had, first to, this part of the job to do. Now maybe it's time for them and give them some, time to regroup and start working on other things. The one I mentioned already, I think if you see what is a telecom, it's one big enterprise, usually one of the biggest in country. So everything that applies for all other enterprises that we mentioned, and this digitalization applies for them. So how externally, that way internally.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think you're right to call out the great things that telcos have been doing as well. Throughout COVID, telcos have done an incredible job, under amazing strains, enormous increase of traffic, and there've been very, very few issues internationally, with networks, whether that's subsea, terrestrial, delivering traffic, whether that's consumer or enterprise. I think the telcos globally have not really been given the praise they should have been, for an incredible job during COVID. So you're right to call that out, which is good. But you're also right to say we've got to think about, as the new normal arrives, what can we learn? And as we're being consumer-led, and very much device-led, what can the telcos learn from the new consumer experience that people expect, how that then permeates into the enterprise, and then how the enterprise are going to buy, from the telcos. It's something we've really got to think through. Is there anything, you want to share in terms of key messages to the telcos that they should be thinking about now, over the next few months in terms of transforming?
Well, looking back on everything that we said, not to repeat how they did good in this first wave, I would call them in action in terms of they also carry a certain level of responsibility for digital transformation of themselves as well as of the whole society. So if you see that, usually the telco is the owner of the biggest pool of businesses that are connected to them. And here I just don't mean on the big guys like big fintech companies or retails or stuff, but a bunch of small ones like this small medium or Soho market and stuff. So all these kind of are relying on telcos for the basic connectivity, for plans, internets, telephones, whatever. So if telcos would come into this area and push the digital transformation and help those guys to transform, because usually those small and medium ones, they don't have capacity to run the bakery and think about digitalizing their communication processes, marketing, user journey, all this kind of stuff that we are talking about. I think here telcos can play a great role, and also this can be a good thing for them. I mean, another revenue stream, another positioning for them, shifting them even in public, like from this I think Alper mentioned big pipe provider to actually the digital transformation provider player on the market.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree. I think many telcos and many have matured their enterprise offerings, but many need to be able to offer the full suite of transformation services. No, that's great. Mio, thanks ever so much. That's tremendous. Again, we could talk for ages about the topic of digital transformation and all the different components of it, but thank you for that. And thanks for all the work that InfoBip's doing. So thank you. We're now going to bring everybody back together for a kind of short panel session. I think Alper will come back to us. Dewan, you're there, which is great. Hey, Alper, that's good. So let's try and tie some of these things together and think about some of the things that we've been talking about. Alper, you mentioned at the start the sort of the risks and the opportunities with the web giants. Dewan, you talked about actually how you're partnering with them, particularly Azure and AWS in the IoT space, and Mio, you talked about how there's that great opportunity to serve, for the telcos to serve and drive digital transformation by providing more services. Alper, if I can kick off with you, with some of those challenges and opportunities that the OTTs present, how can the telcos learn from them to sort of do what Mio was saying and deliver more services to the enterprise if they want to?
Telcos, as I believe, telcos have been learning from these giants. You call them web giants or hyperscalers or big OTTs, but they've been learning the hard way, losing their customers, ARPU, profits, and most important, as far as I see, is the stardust that they had in their good old days. Telcos had that stardust on them, like they were shiny providers and they were like connecting people, right? And they had that good-looking brands and they had a taste. But those good old days were over after the new hype. But this gave them the wake-up call to get out of their comfort zones and respond back, which requires same technologies that these hyperscalers use and same mindset that they have and the same talent that they own. Now, hyperscalers and OTTs are a big reality, and telcos will have to coexist with them. So telcos indeed will benefit from their presence around them due to the fact that they will be at the forefront of technology which will be adopted by the telco and respond back. And the hyperscaler will always need physical access to the end customers, which will be provided by the telco. This is a fair balance that will improve services for the end user for sure. However, if you leave the keys of the network to a hyperscaler, that might be the start of the end for the telco operators. So coexisting, partnering, and competing will be in place, and it will be better for the end customer as long as this balance is in place. That's the way I see it.
Okay, that's interesting. Co-opetition. Dewan, what are your thoughts? Particularly in the partner role that you're in, partnerships are really important.
Yeah, I think all great points. When we talk about digital transformation, we talk about the DNA of digital transformation. So really, it's the device, the network, and the applications, right? So the end devices from IoT, the network connectivity to connect those devices to specific applications. And that's where, to the point where the hyperscalers come in as to where those applications reside and how do we integrate, how do we coexist, and who plays what role in this new environment, right? So, traditionally from a Verizon perspective, we haven't played in the device level where there are some devices that we provide, but we're not manufacturing devices. Of course, we've provided the network connectivity for years, and then in different entryways we provide, and we partner with providers on the application piece of that. So I think as things progress, things move to MEC, and these partnerships exist, there is a critical piece for us to coexist together to figure out the best path forward as to who plays what role. But each of those three components of DNA are going to need to be there. It's just a matter of who provides what. And I think that's the exciting piece of how we work together and then bring these solutions forward to enterprises.
Yeah, definitely. And competition makes you sharper, Alper, to your point, that existential threat, particularly, whether that be from the sort of the device providers at one end or whether it be from the application providers at the other, can only make networks better and sharper, you would hope.
Sure.
But no, that's great. Some good points there. Mio, what do you think?
Well, I can agree with the colleagues here on this panel. Dwayne kind of summarized it nicely. this coexistence of all this space. The things are becoming too big and too fast. So there's no anymore like one guy will do it, however big can do it alone. So this partnership coexistence, and believe me, we are partnering with more than 700 telcos. We know this is possible. We've seen some good examples in some regions, maybe not so good or not that fast in some others. Definitely what we are trying to do is to move this best practice from one project and one region to another, and that way excel. And definitely I would agree with everybody here. Coexistence and partnership. This is the key here to be all better, faster, sharper.
Yeah, no, I agree. The other thing for me in COVID is just the way internationally countries have cooperated, and again, telcos have cooperated internationally when people haven't been able to meet and have been working from home. For me, that's been tremendously encouraging. And you look at us on this call, we're 4 different people, from 4 different countries, collaborating now, which is great to see. And for me, that's been a massive highlight of COVID as well. But no, there's some great points there. And as you think about kind of how the telcos drive digital transformation and take advantage of some of these opportunities, one of the big challenges is, and particularly as you softwareize the business, Alper, to our first conversation, that talent in the telcos is harder to get hold of, and again, you're competing, particularly in the software space with the A of the DNA, the one, aren't we? The application providers. The telcos need software skills that are increasingly rare and increasingly expensive. So there is this real battle for talent going on. What are you guys seeing in terms of that sort of, war for talent, for want of a better word, or competition for talent? What are some of your businesses doing? What are you seeing elsewhere, some of the telcos doing to make sure they've got enough of that talent to be able to drive the change they need to?
My perspective is, again, from a systems integrator perspective. Actually, it's not only software part. I right now I see 2 camps from my perspective. One camp is the IT focused talent trying to learn telco, and the other camp is the telco focused talent trying to learn IT. These 2 talent domains are merging now. Actually, they have been merging already since a while, but now after the telco transformation, the digital transformation kicked in at the telcos. Now that the technology is ready for that, and now we see this merge, and this is, of course, easing access to talent. But software talent has always been a challenge, since it sits on both domains and infratech agnostic most of the time. So it was always a challenge. But what I see, the good thing I see, is the fact that when telcos transform and when they start fighting back in power, compared to the old days when they were fighting against the OTTs or the hyperscalers who were like offering amazing packages to software talent and pulling all those resources. Now, I think there's a move and they are able to transfer software talent from the lost lens, if I can call it the lost lens. So I already see the move now. The telcos are also able to transfer talent because telcos started acting as OTTs as well. That's one of the topics that I wanted to discuss today, if we have the time, because I see a telco becoming a big, huge OTT, but with extra muscles holding the lens, holding the physical network. So when you become the OTT itself alone, a big, massive OTT with multiple OTTs under the same umbrella, then you can pull up talent, the software talent from the industry, providing similar, I would say, working environment and the fun these smart, talented people are looking for.
Yeah. Well, that's good insight. Dewan, any follow-on thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's not unique to the telco space. I think that the recent news in the United States, and maybe in other countries as well, is that there are millions of IT and software roles that are looking to be filled that they can't find the talent for. So I don't think it's unique to the telco space. I do think that we as telcos have been on this journey for some time. As was outlined earlier, we talk about SDN, NFV, having software skills within the telco base has been a necessity for some time. But to the point, we're all going after, very similar resources when it comes to, technology talent. So I don't think it's unique to the telco space, and I think it's probably something that's going to continue in the future, which puts more pressure on to bring more people into the STEM realm, in training and job placement and preparation, so that we increase the talent base across the board, because not only telcos, but all businesses are going to need it as digital transformation continues to proliferate.
Definitely. Yeah. And that's why an ongoing big push across, diversity and bringing a more diverse workforce into STEM, is crucial. In one sense, we all need to learn C# and Python, don't we? We need to encourage all the kids to, to be doing that, and people to transform skills as well, because, I think the new normals, some roles are going to be, increasingly obsolete, and new ones are going to be needed. To your point, Dewan, we've got, in the UK, there's over 1 million job vacancies right now, which is a pretty scary number for all kinds of economic and geopolitical reasons. But they can't all be filled because not all the right skills are in the right places, and that's something that we've got to try and figure out as an industry. But yeah, there is a shortage of software skills across the board, not just in telco, and that we can help fill for sure. Mio, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, if you ask me, about the problem or issue or challenge of talents in telcos, then I would say to our partners, telcos, look for partners. They can help us. But okay, to be fair, then partners like we are also have this challenge with this, because we are all trying to grab from the same pool of talents, and how we are dealing it's actually kind of two directions. One is work smarter, so not that every problem needs to be solved with another person. We are trying to transform, the development processes, the integration processes, everything that we do. That we heavily invest in automation. We are heavily invest in the different approaches of work, so that we don't need. Of course, we need talents, and we are hiring big time. We are growing fast, but we try to see if some things can be changed with maybe less. The second thing how we are doing is, as mentioned, we are a global company with more than 70 offices, so we are kind of leveraging on this, that for us this talent pool is the whole world, and then we are trying to offer opportunities and looking for people and giving them chance to work in this excitement area in basically all regions, and blended in using all this great technology that you, Tim, mentioned. And now it's not important where you sit and where you are based, as long as you have a good internet connection that your local carrier is providing. You are fine to go.
Definitely. No, it's a good observation. I mean, we're illustrating that now, in one sense, being in in 2 different continents and 4 different countries. But you're right to mention automation as well. I mean, I'd love to have explored automation this afternoon, but we've just not had time, sadly. There's another few hours we could spend on robotic process automation or intelligent process automation. With Cambridge Management Consulting right now, we're working with a Spanish-US intelligent process automation company called Intelligence, who have just done a project for Mettel where, through IPA, they've removed 70% of their ticket volumes. It's fantastic. Some great automation examples out there as well. We just sadly haven't got time to cover that today. So we've got a couple of minutes left. So can you all give me just one final kind of thought? We've looked back quite a bit in terms of the last 12 and 24 months during COVID. If we look forward 12 months, and hopefully, Capacity Europe will be back now every 12 months. We're in the new normal. Hopefully we can start meeting together again better, more often. But as you look forward for 12 months, what's your kind of one thought for the future, or one prediction over the next 12 months in terms of digital transformation? Alper, can I start with you?
Yeah, sure. Well, my prediction is, to be honest with you, is going to be for a longer term. If you're talking about 12 months term, yeah, we will see digitally more transformed, I would say, service providers for sure. Like, we will see binary companies from now on. But for the long run, I would say the telcos are becoming OTT powerhouses. And the only way to become OTT powerhouses is to transform the network, actually, the mentality, everything. And becoming OTTs themselves, while having a separate organization under the same umbrella that takes care of the physical access to physical life. So the operator becoming a huge, giant OTT, and another entity taking care of the physical connectivity to real life, the land, This is the way I see it. So it will be a combination of a physical infrastructure entity that owns the land, protects the land against hyperscalers, and the application layer as the operator itself. This is the way this is my prediction for the future of the telcos, I would say.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Dewan.
Yeah, I would want to say I think it's going to be an exciting next 12 months as digital transformation continues down the path. I think two words that we're seeing is the convergence of technology of both wireline and wireless access. So FWA, or fixed wireless access, we'll see continued proliferation. And with that, as 5G and 4G fixed wireless access will become more prevalent. And then the second piece Alper was just mentioning is, I think from a telco perspective, we'll continue our journey above the network with above the network solutions. Verizon acquired Blue Jeans. We continue to look at end-to-end security and other ways that we can provide more solutions. I mentioned our MEC partnerships with both AWS and Azure. So I think we'll continue that journey above the network, as well as the convergence of fixed wireless access. And those two things will, continue to proliferate in the coming year. So I'm excited about the upcoming year.
Brilliant. Yeah, me too. Thank you for that. Mio.
Well, personally, I'm expecting maybe first, to see some tangible benefits from the 5G. Obviously, telcos and mobile operators invested heavily here. So I hope we'll truly see that the 5G won't be yet another G and just more speed and more capacity, but actually the revolution which we are kind of expecting here. Another thing which I think can be interesting to add into equation, and now I know some telcos start looking at it as blockchain. So something that can flavor all different parts of processes, communications. You can use it in everywhere. I don't think it was explored enough so far in the telco space, and maybe another thing where my interest is identity. So I think on the identity space, there should be some kind of standardization or something that we are seeing it floating here and there, and telcos being part of it, and some other entities working on it. Now I think is the time, maybe in the next year or two, that we all come together from different sides, from the demand and supply perspective, and put some effort into making a structure around this identity.
Brilliant. No, that's good. That's interesting. Blockchain, DLT. I'm not sure, but identity definitely, and I think as people have talked more about, COVID passports, identity has been very much linked to that. We've just finished a big identity project actually, so that's quite interesting. So I think we're out of time, guys. Thank you so much, Alper, Dewan, Mio. That's fantastic. Thank you for your time, David. Let me hand back to you.
Cheers. Thank you very much, gentlemen, Dan and Tim, for expertly guiding that discussion on there. That brings us to the end of the Digital Transformation Show. So I just want to say once again, thanks to Tim, to Alper, to Dewan and Mio. You can connect with our speakers and representatives from their companies using the SWAT Card app. I once again I'd like to thank all the sponsors for supporting Capacity Europe 2021. Check out details of the next session you can look forward to watching at the end of this program. Make sure you also check out the agenda to see what's coming up in the rest of this year's conference program, either on SWAT Card or live in the conference room. Thank you very much for joining us, and I hope you enjoyed the rest of the event. Bye for now.